Megami Tensei 2. No novels or OVAs here. This is the first original story for the Megaten series, and for those of you who are familiar with SMT, a lot of things are going to sound familiar. To say this game basically started SMT and ended up being a reference point for the games to come wouldn't be too out there. And so, let's get into why that is, but first a little thing to point out. From this point on, a majority of protagonists normally don't have a name in-game, so I will be using whatever can be considered a canon name for these characters, whether that comes from a manga, anime, drama CD, or even the instruction booklet. Just a heads up for this and all other applicable games this year. Anywho, now we can start with the story. In the year 1990X, a war broke out between nations. The world was devastated with missile attacks, with the remaining survivors finding safety in fallout shelters. It's now the year 2036, and two friends named Hidetoh and Senda are playing a video game called Devil Busters in one of these very same shelters. In a short throwback to the first game, they explore the Tower of Daedalus and beat the first boss. This results in them unsealing Pazuzu, a being that claims to be a messenger of God. He explains that after the missile attacks, a dimensional rift opened, leading to demons flooding the world. Pazuzu was sent to deal with this issue, but was captured and sealed into a computer by Baal, a demon who is currently ruling over all of Tokyo. Pazuzu states that only Hidetoh and Senda could have unsealed Pazuzu from his prison, as they are the messiahs, destined to save mankind from this demonic apocalypse. Pazuzu bestows upon Hidetoh the demon summoning program, and bestows the ability to use magic onto Senda, in hopes of these being the necessary tools needed to defeat Baal. The duo gear up and leave the shelter, prepared to save humanity from the demons. They eventually encounter a woman named Rosanna at the Tokyo Tower. She informs the two that Pazuzu is not to be trusted. Hidetoh agrees, but Senda doesn't, and truly believes Pazuzu to be telling the truth. The two of you split, with Rosanna replacing Senda as your partner throughout your journey. The journey at this point being to collect the 7 Pillars of Solomon by progressing from city to city and trying to solve any problems or disputes you come across. This leads you to tracking down Pazuzu and wanting to kill him, but before you can, you run into Senda and he's changed into something different. Referred to as the Dark Hero, Senda shows up a few times to try and impede your progress, but you come out on top each time. After killing Pazuzu, finding all of the pillars, and making it to Baal's castle, you get ready for a showdown. But Senda gets there before you, and tries to kill Baal himself. Baal makes quick work of Senda, leaving you with the task of defeating Baal. You do so, and Baal reverts into a frog. You have the choice to bring Baal with you in this state, and if you do so, you will be able to get the true ending. Either way, after your fight with Baal, Senda gives his final words, stating that he only wanted to be a hero, and was desperate to achieve that no matter what stood in his way, and that the true enemy behind all of this is in the demon world. With the 7 pillars in tow, our heroes make their way to the demon world, and after slaying a few of the demon lords that rule sections of the demon world, they meet Beelzebub. Now, if you decided to spare Baal when he turns into a frog, Beelzebub asks you to let him fuse with his other half. If you allow it, Beelzebub will turn into the complete version of Baal and will join your team. If not, or if you killed his other half, then you will have to kill him instead. Regardless of what happens at this point, the party goes to the head honcho himself, Lucifer. If Baal has joined you, then you can choose to join forces with Lucifer. And with everyone in tow, the party returns to Tokyo and finds out that the being that started all of this, the one who caused the nuclear fallout and the demon invasion, was a demon posing as the head of a company known as Suzuki. But it isn't just any demon, it's everyone's favorite danger noodle! Yeah, Satan the Demon is classified as an entirely different being than Lucifer the Angel in this franchise. In fact, Lucifer is the good guy in this story, being cast down to the demon world because he was being worshipped more by humanity. More than that, it's stated that all of the world's old gods were also exiled to the demon world by a being who wanted to be worshipped as the one true god. Who is this being? Well, after defeating Satan, you are teleported to the entrance of a corridor. As you walk down, this being talks to you, stating that you should turn back. Upon reaching the end, you meet this being face to face. This is Yahweh, or as he's more commonly called in this series, YHVH. Basically, he's God, and he was the one that ordered Satan to launch the missiles that decimated the world, as this was all to wipe out humanity so he may recreate the world and be known as the only God worthy of praise and worship. YHVH offers you a chance to betray Lucifer and become a divine being instead of fighting him. If you side with YHVH, Lucifer is immediately smited on the spot, and Hidito as well as Rosanna are invited to the Millennium Kingdom. Basically heaven, where they live out their days as godly beings while the world they once inhabited is cleansed. Now, if you choose to fight YHVH, the true final battle begins, and after defeating YHVH, he begins to disappear, but not before dropping a huge bombshell, and not an actual nuke this time. YHVH reveals that he is only a small part of a being known as the Great Will, which oversees and controls infinite universes. And while YHVH's defeat will lead to all of the demons vanishing from the world, he points out that the Great Will eventually revive him, and that humanity has only been granted a few moments of peace. With that, YHVH and the demons disappear from the world, and peace is restored, for now. And I finally get to talk about this. So, the Megaton franchise takes place in a multiverse, where each game can take place in its own universe with its own versions of demons, angels, and deities, and they can all have alternate names, designs, and roles depending on the universe, meaning that beings like Lucifer and YHVH can be entirely different in their depictions from game to game. This also means that certain games can take place in the same universe as others, and as such can have callbacks, references, or can even have previous games be the explanation as to why a certain universe is the way it is. Now, of course, you can enjoy most of the Megaton games without any knowledge of what came before it. All this is just extra stuff that weirdos like me absolutely love. And since this one moment, the ideas, worlds, and settings that this franchise could tap into were literally made limitless. And this is probably the coolest goddamn thing about this franchise, because no idea is too out there for this franchise, and with settings constantly being changed, there's never a point where this franchise feels stale or that it's running out of ideas. And I love that. I think it's really cool. It's this factoid alone that makes this one of my favorite franchises, probably my most favorite overall, and it's all thanks to Megami Tensei 2. But I'd say that's enough for the story section. Let's see what's new in the gameplay department. Gameplay is a little bit of a second verse same as the first, but this game has a lot of new additions to its formula and mechanics. Let's start with the biggest one, equipment. In the first game, you can equip a weapon, a helmet, armor, and a Kami could equip gear or shields to his arm. Now, in addition, you can equip gear for your legs, your face, you can equip capes or cloaks, and most importantly, guns. Guns are another form of damaging enemies, and are mainly effective against the new threat this time around, humans. Yes, people can randomly gang up on you just like demons. Of course, you can't negotiate with them, but this marks the first time where demons aren't the only threat you'll be fighting. Going back to equipment, some pieces of armor add points to your base stats. These points show up as red or hollow on your stat screen and can be a good way to cover you if you're lacking in a stat. However, equipment in this game is expensive. Now more than ever, considering that you have more equipment slots to worry about. I recommend playing the mini-games that you find in some of the towns. These were a thing in Megami Tensei 1, but weren't really needed. In this game, however, I'd argue that they're required, because look at these prices! You're gonna need a lot of Maka for some of this gear, so get to gambling your money away. I recommend the minigame Big and Small. You guess that the next number is going to be big or small, and each time you win, your earnings are doubled. You can only win up to 8 times in a row before they reset the bet, but this is a good way to get a lot of Maka fast. The final thing about equipment is that there are cursed weapons in this game. They're indicated by a white mark in the weapon's info box, and unless you're ready to heal constantly or want to use it to beat a boss, I would recommend not equipping these weapons if you find them. If equipped, these weapons inflict you with the cursed status. While afflicted, your HP will drain with each step, and you can't talk to demons. You thankfully can still use your comp, but that's pretty much it. As you'd expect, the benefit is that you can hit like a truck, up to 8 times even, but they're the only type of weapon where you can end up hitting 0 times. To get rid of a curse, you need to go to a healer, who will charge you a hefty price to destroy the weapon, breaking you from the curse. Be warned though, if you die holding one of these weapons and get revived by the healer, a glitch could occur where the cursed weapon is stuck on you, and the game won't recognize that it's still there, and thus that character can no longer equip any other weapon. So, in conclusion, just sell the cursed weapons. It's not worth the hassle to actually try and use these. And thankfully, these aren't a thing nowadays. Other fun things to point out is that there is now an overworld you can walk around in, and besides underground tunnels, this is how you'll be getting from place to place. Interesting thing to note, while you're out in the overworld, your magnetite doesn't drain. I don't know if it's an oversight, but it's something to keep in mind. Arguably, the best addition to this game is the introduction of terminals. These are not only your save points, but they also teleport you to any other terminal that you have found, and are very convenient for getting from city to city without walking the entire way. The last notable addition is Triple Fusion. It's a new addition to the Cathedral of Shadows, but it's not as open as it ends up being in future installments. Only demons that have a good alignment can be used for Triple Fusion, but it can lead to some good unique demons, so it's worth dabbling with every now and again. In terms of the actual game, in some ways I'd say it's an improvement. Your main quest for the first half of the game is to get the 7 Pillars of Solomon. You can get these in any order, and the way you get them can be really fun. There's the normal ones you get from finding bosses, but then you can get one by temporarily joining a cult, you can get one by winning a demon tournament, or you can put a stop to a mind-controlling demon by leveling up your intelligence to a point where the demon can't control you anymore. It's really cool, and it is here where I would like to retract a statement I made last time. I said that the fetch quest in this game was just as dumb as the fetch questing in Megami Tensei 1, and that's not even remotely the case. I guess I was just remembering wrong, because the fetch quest is not something I have an issue with in this game. Though I do have an issue with this game's love of traps. Trap floors that drop you down to a previous floor, or traps that eject you out of the dungeon entirely. It's more tedious stuff that slows down the pacing in some dungeons, but all in all, the game is fine. I don't really have any major complaints for this game. I think it's just a solid game that brought some good additions to the series. Even when it's minor stuff like this being in the game where Rag accepts more than just Amethyst for his wares, this being in the game to add stat increasing items, or something only a weirdo like me would care about, this being the first game to introduce this little bundle of cuteness, Jack Frost. He's also the strongest he's ever been. Level 38? Really? He's around level 8 in most games. What happened? Who hurt my cute little snowman so bad that he dropped 30 levels after this game? Well, the other things about him is that he doesn't have his trademark catchphrase yet, and as most people are aware, he's the mascot of Atlus and Megami Tensei as a whole, and we'll definitely be seeing more of him as we progress throughout the rest of the year. Much like Megami Tensei 1, 2's soundtrack is amazing, with tons of catchy and mood-setting tracks. A big mention goes to Satan and YHVH's themes. It's better to refer to these as Final Boss Movement 1 and 2 because they both have the same basis for the track, but YHVH's theme is a more complete version of Satan's theme. nice way to audibly showcase how Satan isn't the real final boss, and that you'll get the true version of this track by going after the true antagonist of the game. Besides that, some other great tracks are the battle theme, the overworld theme, 2D Tokyo, and the terminal music. It might be 20 seconds long and loops endlessly, but I always find myself jamming out to its simple melody and that hectic backbeat. I was not lying last video when I said Megami Tensei 2 laid down framework for future games. Nearly everything introduced in this game becomes a mainstay. Even the little stick figures that represent how many demons you're fighting came from the Famicom version of this game. This is also the first game to have art done by Kazuma Kaneko, the artist that has done character and demon design for nearly every SMT game up to Strange Journey. It's funny, for a game that did so much for the series, I don't really hear a lot regarding this game, or even the first Megami Tensei for that matter, but I do hear a lot about the next game we'll be talking about, Shin Megami Tensei. Might have taken a couple weeks, but we're finally going to get to the main series. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, be safe out there, I'll see you guys next time, take care.